Ohio gozaimasu! Little Demon Nico here. Now, I did paste up a status on my channel that I was going to talk about Vampyr today. Now, as I'm going to say this now, Vampyr is my most favorite game. It's one of my most favorite games besides Pokemon, and I'm literally going to discuss all of this today, but I'm going to do it in parts when it comes to like citizens, because there's like over 60 citizens in total, which I'll do into sections. And the thing is, I've completed this game a total of 8 times. 8 times I've completed it, but I think my game is slowly on its way out because the loading screen keeps coming up more often. So I don't want it to die out. And obviously completing it 8 times, I still can't find everything. I still cannot find everything, which is so annoying because I just want to keep playing it. Now, I'm gonna get started on the summary. So basically, you play as a guy called Jonathan Reed. He is a man who's just returned home from the war, from serving in France, and he is a high-ranked surgeon, so he can implement new blood transfusion techniques to save lives. And on the night from returning to London, Jonathan Reed was unconscious and he woke up in the mass grave out in Southwark. So he still had his memories intact from his life before, but when he regained consciousness, he realized that he was transformed into a vampire. And he has no regulation of how he woke up in that grave or how he transformed. And like when he woke up, he realized that he was really thirsty, and he came across this woman, and her name was Mary. And obviously she was looking for him because just came back from France, so she was looking at all of the dead corpses. And then when he touched her, she turned around and she was so happy that her brother was alive, and because she thought the worst. And so basically when it starts off, you don't like see how it would normally look. It was in black and white, and all you could see was her blood and her heart beating. That's all you could see. And I guess you can say, as a newborn, you know what happens. The blood takes over you, and he basically drank from his sister, and therefore she died. And so basically, the game was based in 1918 in London. So it was basically around when the Spanish flu was around, like over 100 years ago. So, and obviously because Jonathan is a vampire, he doesn't get sick. So basically, how this gameplay works is that it's a role-playing game, and it mainly focuses on your choice and mortality. And every time there will be a Y in the corner of the screen, and that's autosave. So once you make a choice, you can't redo it. So you always have to be careful about how you're gonna do this. And obviously, as a doctor, Reed feels the need to heal people because he is a doctor. And obviously, he is consumed by blood. And the whole point of the game is you have to take blood to save a life. And that is the whole point. I mean, like I said, it's a choice-making game, so you have to be careful about what citizens you take, the lives of, and also the main choices of the game that you guys are going to make. So the player will be able to travel through the streets of London, which was in the 20th century, and interact with multiple characters to their own identities and importance. The structure of the gameplay is set around missions given by citizens. So you will get side quests by some of these citizens, because either they've lost something or they're too cowardly to go themselves because in the dead of night there's murderers walking around. And there's also other like vampire hunters and creatures that are called skulls. And obviously when you do these side quests, you will unlock hints for that particular person. It's like to gain their trust, basically. That's all it is to gain trust from that person. But the thing is, though, however, you will be constantly reminded that Reed needs blood to survive. So the player will have to choose which character will be their prey and which characters to spare. So you can establish relationships with the characters that you meet for the feeding strategy and to seduce them, change their daily habits, or make sure they end up alone in a dark street. So I guess you can say that every citizen has something wrong with them. Like they could either be committed killers, drug addicts, or prostitutes. It could be anything. Like there will be some people that are like, oh, I don't mean to hurt my daughter, but really that person's abusive. So, but killing a character means they cannot return after you have killed that person. So you have to always be careful what you do. So, and obviously the consequences will play into the environment that Reed inhabits. So obviously you have feeding on a human, which will not keep him alive. It will also unlock new vampire powers for the player to use. So basically, if you take blood from a citizen, it makes the game easier for you. Like you can unlock more skills for yourself, but sometimes it's a good thing what you did, and sometimes it's not. And obviously, you have the combat variants from melee combat to ranged shooting mechanics and supernatural vampire powers. So you can have access to guns, swords, daggers, and also you have your vampire abilities. And enemy types in the game vary from human to vampire or other supernatural creatures. So say like you're gonna attack a vampire hunter. There's like probably about 3 or 4 different vampire hunters. So say like one vampire hunter is weak against blood type moves, so you'll use a vampire move. Or if they're weak against shooting, you use a gun. Or if you use a sword, if they're weak against like sword attacks. Simple as that. And you'll also like encounter like with vampire hunters, they'll use different traps, tools, and weaponry. So you have to be really careful because once you get shot, then you basically been seen, which is the one thing that you don't really want. And as for Reed's health and status and energy power, they considered one and the same. Using powers will drain your blood, so that's why you have to constantly keep rebuilding your blood count in order to use your vampire moves. But that will restore your health as well, because you have to go in for the bite. You have to like go in for feed in combat, just so you can get that blood count up. And Vampyr is also a crafting system. So basically you just have to find like, I guess you can find like medicines. You have to find like loot materials, or you can find stuff on on the corpses of your victims, and during exploring, so you can find it in trash cans, boxes that are all out of like into the danger zone where you do most of your combat. And so you have to craft like medicines, or you have to like craft that to increase your power of weapons. But you can find weapons out in the open as well, but that's the only way you're going to find them. Same with like collectibles and also like your combat, like I mentioned before. So, but the game is only released on Xbox One, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. But I have it on the Nintendo Switch. So that is how it works. Now I'm going to be talking about the districts. So as for the districts, there are 4 districts in the whole game. So you have the Docks, Pembroke Hospital, Whitechapel, and West End. Now, those locations can be available as the story progresses. So, obviously, you first start off in Southwark, which is where you first wake up as a newborn, and then you just have to make your way up to each district at a slow pace. So first Southwark, then the Docks, and then you're at the Pembroke Hospital. Then once you get enough there, then you can go to Whitechapel, and then when you get to the half point at the game, you go to the West End. Simple. And in every single district, there's about 16 different citizens. There's 16 citizens, so you can either do like side quests or get to know the person. Simple. And then when the more you find out about that person, it makes you think, like, should I really kill this person or should I spare them? That is where the game actually ticks you off. I mean, especially if you find out that if one person is abusive to their daughter, like, what do you do? Like, you're going to get to that point when that person might end up killing their kid one day. So, you just have to be really careful what you're going to pick. And each district has a health bar, which is basically a health status. It's like an incubator that shows how the district copes with the epidemic. So your actions will have effect on the health status. You can treat the resident or kill them, which will affect this health status bar accordingly. So the health status is provided into the following levels: sanitized, healthy, stable, serious, critical, and hostile. If a district falls below the critical level, the residents will die out and enemies will appear. So you have to be really careful what you're gonna do, because, well, I mean, what's gonna happen? Like, you end up killing one person in the critical level, and then when you upgrade the next morning, the whole area's died out. Like, there's nothing left. And in each district, you can find a safe house where you can craft items and rest, which enables to advance to higher levels of experience. So when you rest, you have to, like, use your blood points, or XP, as most of us will call it, to, like, upgrade, like, your stamina, health, blood contivity, your bite, and special vampire abilities. So the biggest changes in the district take place during the night. And when you go to sleep, especially if you haven't healed any citizens beforehand, new diseases will appear. And the consequences of your actions will come into force. New items will appear in the shops, etc. So you just have to be careful what you guys are gonna pick, because it is not very good what you're gonna do, because when it comes to, like, mesmerize levels, which will get upgraded every major choice that you make in the game, and sometimes you have to be careful what you're gonna do. So now I'm gonna go into, like, the description of the districts. So basically what it is, Southwark is empty. So Southwark's empty. There's no citizens there because it's been overrun by vampire hunters, and surprisingly there is no skulls there. There's nothing there. It's just like 1 or 2 hideouts for you to stay in, and you do have to go back there for 2 side quests. Now, next is Pembroke Hospital. Pembroke is one of the locations. It is the first safe haven for Jonathan after he is turned into a vampire. So it's like he was already a doctor beforehand, and that is like one of his safe havens to be in. Believe me, I should know because I played this game way too many times. And he meets Dr. Edgar Swansea, and he offers him a position at Pembroke. So Dr. Swansea, he is a renowned surgeon and a blood specialist, so he offers Jonathan the job and gives him his own office. Therefore, he is protected by vampire hunters. So basically, his office is right on the second floor, and Jonathan's is way further than peering eyes. So no one will suspect him anything if he becomes a nighttime doctor. So no one's going to suspect anything. And you also have access to the Poplar sewers, which can be entered after you do like a special mission. And there's also the old morgue, which is not really being used anymore, but you have to go in there to find like medications, which is not very nice. It's scary in there. It's really, really scary because the amount of times that I've been in there, and I still get terrified. So it doesn't help that the music is like that either. Now, next one is Whitechapel. It is a district in London, and that's where the poor and the people suffer. So that is like the most sickest district in the entire game. So, we have to be careful because that is one of the districts that will go hostile quicker. So, but the thing is with Whitechapel, everyone is always sick, poor, and everything. But I did think that they did put an Easter egg in there. Now, I'm guessing you guys are really... You guys must have heard of Jack the Ripper. So, you must have heard of Jack the Ripper. And he actually done 5 murders in Whitechapel in 1888. And obviously those 5 murders contain the prostitutes. And oddly enough, they actually put a prostitute in Whitechapel. So I thought that was a really cool Easter egg that they put there. I mean, I'm not saying that it is an Easter egg, but to me it sounds like that it is, because when I first found out it was a prostitute, I was like, oh, they put a reference to Jack the Ripper in here. That's really nice. Now, next is the docks. So basically, with the docks, that's like the first district that you officially go to. That one is not too bad. Most of the sickness can be stable there. So, and obviously you get your first little life into a pub where you have to you follow a blood trail that had belonged to a killer, and you have to interrogate the 3 locals that were in that pub to get information from them. And that is the whole point of this game. Once you unlock the hint, you force them to tell you the truth about what had happened to that particular person or whatever. Now, the final district is the West End. And the way you can go into the West End is when you get to the halfway point of the game. So in the West End, it includes Jonathan's mansion, because where the West End is, that's where all the rich people live. Where all the upper class people have come from, where they live. It's basically where all the rich people are from. And his mansion can be used as a hideout where his bedroom is. So, but to be totally honest, West End is my favorite location to be in, because how they done the layout for that, it's gorgeous. It's the proper 1918 London that we all wanted to see. It was really, really good. It was amazing. Now, I'm going to talk about the skills. So, skills can be evolved by spending XP while sleeping, and may be leveled more rapidly by feeding on citizens that are worth a fat chunk of XP. So, Jonathan can mesmerize the citizens to lead them to a quiet spot to feed, which will kill them from the blood loss that he commits onto them. But only if he mesmerizes level at a significant level. So it's basically after a main choice that you make. So basically you're already level 1 when you first start the game, and then after you've been to Whitechapel with a major choice, you got to level 2, level 3, so on. And the max mesmerized level you can get to is level 5. And basically every citizen has a different mesmerizing level. So how I found out is that if that person's level 1, they're not relevant enough for the story. And when it goes up to level 5, that's the danger zone. Because if you kill someone who's above level, and if you haven't, like, healed anyone from sickness or whatever, then that district is going to fall rapidly. Like, the whole area will die out if it's in the critical zone, and that is the one thing that you don't want to do. So, XP can be gained by completing chapters of the main quest, local investigations, killing enemies, but you don't get a lot from killing enemies, unfortunately, and then also killing in boss fights, learning hints about citizens, and curing citizens of illness. So the only way you can get loads of XP is by embracing people. There, I said it. That's how you're going to get a lot of XP, is by doing that. Now, active skills. So Raid has access to 5 skills at given time to use in combat. But you can swap the skill in the character menu. If you don't like that particular skill, you can always change it. But you have to unlock it when you use your XP, because it's still going to be locked and you have to get it to level 1 in order to use it. So you have defensive, aggressive, tactical, and ultimate and passive skills. So everything's different. So Raid can heal himself by exchanging blood. So basically when you go in for a bite on him, you can heal your health up by drinking blood of a vampire or a vampire hunter or anything. Now with defensive, blood barrier, exchange blood for a temporary shield against attacks. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either absorb more hits before breaking or deal blood damage to nearby opponents upon expiration. So basically you only have that blood shield for a certain amount of seconds before it completely vanishes. But I don't really use defensive skills, but there you go. And then coagulation freezes an opponent in place for several moments, leaving them vulnerable. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either incapacitate the target for longer and to also provide blood upon use. So that's going to depend, because once you get it to level 2, you have 2 different locations on the skill tree to pick from. So you have to pick wisely, because once you pick one, you can't pick the other one. It's over. Aggressive. So you have the claws. It's quickly swipe towards, dealing melee damage. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either generate blood upon hitting opponent or to stun them instead. Now, to stun, that can be really handy because that makes them go vulnerable when the stun bar goes down. Then you can go in for a bite. So, which is really nice if you want to get that blood up again, etc. Now, blood spear. Fire a blast of blood damage toward an opponent and anything else along the way. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either deal more focused damage or to split into smaller spread spears. Now, I never really use blood spear. I don't really use it because how I play Vampire, I just want to go head on. I don't want to give you distance away and end up missing them. That's the last thing I want to do. And Shadow Mist. You lay down a supernatural mine to erupt with shadow damage after a delay. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either cover more range upon the area or to absorb blood. Now, I tend to use Shadow Mist because it can reach a good range, especially if there are enemies nearby. And also to absorb more blood because it's helpful for me. Because if I can't go in for bite, that would do it for me. Done. Now, you have Tactical. A spring instantly charged toward an opponent, closing the distance and dealing shadow damage. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either deal more damage or to stun the target. Now, I tend to find this easier because once you use it, then you can just go straight for that person, like proper shadow damage that you can push them, and that will give them a stun hit, but it will keep you away from other vampire hunters that are nearby. So that's really simple enough. And the next one is Shadow Veil. Enter an invisible state that lasts as long as the vampire has stamina to burn. At later levels, this skill can be upgraded to either provide a damage and stun bonus upon leaving stealth or to allow dodging while maintaining the veil. So basically, you're invisible if you have no stamina. And basically this will just do it all for you. Like, you'll summon your own shadow creature thing and that will do it itself. And that'll make the vampire hunters more focused on them instead of you. And then once it burns out, you're visible again. Now, your ultimate skills. Just in the name, these are the ultimate skills. Simple. No cost to blood. And the only limit is cooling time was 99 seconds. These skills may method to deal with the boss later, which means if you keep alive during the fight, such as keep running, you'll also have a chance to use this on your target. Remember, it's time limit. Every single blood move or vampire move is on a time limit when you have to cool off. So your first one is Rage. Unleash the Beast, as they call it. Teleport to any nearby opponents and strike each several times for a high melee damage. Abyss. Summon the shadows. So, incapacitate an opponent and deal high shadow damage to them. And Blood Cauldron. Boil the blood. Force an opponent to explode, dealing high blood damage to both them and all nearby opponents. Now, that is insane. I never used that myself, but I have seen it on YouTube videos. I'm like, wow, this game doesn't hold back, does it? Now, passive skills. So, it goes by your health, stamina, and blood resources. The power of Reed's Bite and how many items he can equip at any given time. So, body condition. Invest in this passive to improve Reed's health bar, allowing him to take more hits before being defeated. Physical prowess. Invest in this passive to improve Reed's stamina bar, allowing him to act longer before needing to catch his breath. Blood. This is the most important. Blood captivity. Invest in this passive to improve Reed's blood bar, allowing him to spend more blood points on skills before needing to replenish himself. Big Thirst. Invest in this passive to increase the blood absorption of Bite. So, once you use a Bite move on something, the blood will go up faster. Just a tad bit faster. Okay, Bite. Hard biting. Invest in this passive to increase the damage inflicted when using Bite in combat. Now, if you've done a bad run or whatever, you can get that Bite up to max, depending on how many citizens you've taken and how much XP you got. And sometimes that Bite can do a one-hit kill, if you're lucky enough. Fast regeneration. Invest in this passive to increase the health regeneration of Bite. So once you've done all that, when you need more health, go for that, and then restore it a lot quicker. And science. Invest in this passive to increase the amount of serums Reed can carry at any given time. So if you're in a boss fight and you don't have many blood or stamina or much health left, craft the serums to make him a lot better. Because the amount of times I had to make serums when I first played, it was a fucking nightmare. And then you have your cartridge bag, which is aluminium, which is for your bullets. So you can carry more bullets into your bag. So this is just a quick video for that, even though it was half an hour long. I will start talking about the citizens in the next couple of videos, as I still need to talk about different vampires, vampire hunters, investigations, quests, all that. I'll do all that first before I do the citizens. So before I go, I'll rate this game probably a 4.5 out of 5. Mainly for that is because the loading screen keeps coming up a lot. Especially in my case, the amount of times I keep playing it, it just comes up more often. Not the main thing I want, but what can you do? Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next vampire video. Make sure you don't get bitten along the way.